The Navy put out a deal. They wanted to increase their music programs. So they offered you, if you get a 2-year course and given an associate degree in music or conducting, whatever you wanted. And you had to give them 6 years. Well, I wasn't making any money. I was just a kid, so I grabbed it. My job at the beginning was every ship has a ship's band.
Okay.
The capital ships, the big ships and the aircraft carriers. There was no radio, there was no TV at that time, there was nothing. So we performed for service, for church, and we traveled into the fleet and played concerts. Young fellows would dance with each other. There was no females. Well, I was quite enthused about it because then they sent us to, after we signed up, they sent us to Norfolk to get our uniforms, and we spent 10 days down there to learn how to stand up straight. And then they shipped us back to Washington, D.C. and the School of Music. And so everybody was musicians, and it was easy to make friends. So I enjoyed that. The only thing is, I had the ability to play a pretty good tuba for some reason, and I practiced a lot. And they sent me over to Washington to the Navy band for a test, and they liked the way I played. So I wasn't in the Navy band, but I went over to the rehearsals. So I enjoyed that, and then I came and they said, "We like the way you play. We like this. There's a man going to retire in January 1942. We're going to send you out to the fleet so you get a little bit of sea duty. When you come back, then we'll skip you back and you'll be a member of the band, the Navy band in Washington, D.C. Man, I was real happy about that. The war came, that took care of everything. I was stationed, I went to Norfolk for 10 days. Then I came back in the School of Music and I was stationed right there. And then we went out and played concerts in the area schools, and we traveled around a little bit. We had small groups, and I was a good jazz player with string bass. There was a string bass up there, I don't know, somebody gave me, and so they had this nice jazz band, and the guy, I was talking to the guy, and he said, "How much playing do you?" And I told him. He said, "We'll try you out." So I had a pretty good ear, so he said, "You're in the band." So I went out with the dance band, and we played for dances and things. Had a good time. And then school. I played tuba. Then when I got to high school, I decided to work. Tuba players were disappearing in dance bands, and a teacher lived on my street, was a violin player, and he was a teacher. And he says, "I'll teach you." And then I said, "I don't have any money, but I'll cut your grass for you." So I cut his grass, and he gave me lessons. I wasn't a great student, but I told him I had no interest in being an engineer. I want to be in music, and I wanted to go to college and study music, and that was my goal at the time, and maybe be a teacher. But I wasn't interested as much as I wanted to go out and play with the big bands. Even in the Navy, I played with Artie Shaw. I played with Benny Goodman. He came and played a solo. I thought we were playing a dance, and I was playing background for him, And Sam Donahue, and then I played some more. I played in the symphony orchestras. I had a good career. The music in the Navy was terrible. They would get hiring musicians from other countries. They didn't speak English because they didn't have enough American people that they could play. So they started this program run by the Navy band, and we had a nice building, classes, and we had good musicians. You had to go there and take a test. You just didn't join and go. You had to go there. They shipped you there. You're there for 2 days and took a test. On December the 6th, which was a Saturday, they had a battle of the bands at Pearl Harbor. They had over 2,500 sailors that came to it that night. And we didn't play because we had guardship. The Tennessee did not have a string bass player for some reason. So they called over to my ship to find out if I could play, because everybody knew me, And I said, "Oh." So they happened to be that the officer of the deck was in charge of my group and damage control. And he says, yeah, you're going to have him as long as you have him back there by 800, because we have drills to do and I need to for the phones. So they came to me and said, "You want to play tonight?" They said, "Cal, you can play, come on." I said, "Okay." So I went aboard their ship and went with their boat to play. So the Arizona band was there, California band was there, Pennsylvania band was there, and we played. And we had a great time. Had that 3-2 beers like drinking pop, So anyway, when it was all over, we had a jam session. And that's what my first, I could play with the ear, So I'm playing, and the officer, I said, "I'll come back with the Arizona band." He said, "That's fine." And so anyway, when it was all over, they started to come back. So when they pull up alongside my ship, I got the string bass. I start up and I turn around and it says, "Hey, listen, you guys, if this band here," because we had a great band, "if this band here was at play, it would be number one. We'd have beat your ass, And because see what happened, they did not win the contest. The Pennsylvania band won it, but the Pennsylvania band, the next day, they didn't want it. They gave it to the Arizona band. I know every one of them. I went to school with all those kids. And so then I told them, and you know what they told me? Boy, they told me all pretty good. And I wish them all a Merry Christmas. So they told me, "Cal, why don't you come and stay overnight on our ship? We'll have breakfast and go back on the boat." I said, "I can't. I got to be 800. So the next morning, Pearl Harbor. In fact, 2 days later, I met this lieutenant who was in charge. I walked up to him, I saluted him, and I thanked him for saving my life. "How did I save your life?" And I told him that story. He said, "Oh, kid, we were good friends. We wrote to each other for years." He became a captain in the Navy, and he died now. Everybody died. And so anyway, that's what happened on December the 6th. Wow. That's something, isn't it? Yeah. So, I'll tell you one thing, all battles you remember every detail. You never forget it even when you go to sleep. That morning it was 6 o'clock when you get up. The Navy don't sleep in, the Navy gets up early. So I had my breakfast, and we had guardship for that weekend. And so I was sitting around waiting to go with damage control. And I'm sitting there, we're talking, it's about pretty close to 0800, 5 minutes to 8. Wham, just like that, we got hit. And we all said, "Some son of a bitch ran into us." excuse me. And wham, another one hit. Then I knew something was wrong. And everything was all shaking, and the ship was just shaking like. And then the third one hit, and then water started pouring in. We started listening. Then they assigned general quarters with the best we could, and everybody's running all over the place. Half the guys didn't know what's going on. Half the guys didn't have their clothes on. And so when I went to my station, it was gone. There was nothing but a big hole there. So we just hung around a few minutes, then guys started to trickle in. And then the ship was listening. The Oklahoma went over. Yeah, she was on it. She was a little bit. And then about that time, it was a little bit later, then we heard a huge explosion. That's one of those special made missiles. They took 14-inch shells, the Japanese, and they put fins on them, and they dropped them from 10,000 feet. That's easy when you're not moving. And they hit the Arizona and blew it up. And that the heat from that thing just cooked us, you know. And then they dropped 3 of those. Another one exploded in the water, and one exploded on our ship. Not exploded. It hit on our ship on the third turret, went down and hit between the big guns and didn't go off. That'd have blown the whole thing up because the armor piercing that had gone down to the magazines. Boom, you know. So I didn't know that the next day. When I found that out, I was ready to leave, you know. But anyway, so that's what happened. But they were well trained, and we had no protection. Then the general quarters, it takes 5 minutes. If we'd have been notified that something was wrong by the Navy, we'd have been in general quarters. Then the Japanese would have been in big trouble, because our anti-aircraft guns are what we have, and our planes would have been in the air. So 6 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock in the morning is a long time.
I can imagine.
It's a long time. And the same thing happened to the whole fleet. And so they had a field day. Nobody shooting at them. We knew that there was going to be trouble, because one thing about the Navy, you find out things because sailors know before the admiral knows sometimes, you know, that's the way it is. And we came in on a Saturday morning, Friday morning. That's the first time in 6 months we ever came in with both task forces, because the aircraft carriers left. The American Navy don't go to sea without aircraft carriers, like the Italians did. The British went in there and sank 4 of their battleships, and the airplanes were 500 miles away. So anyway, if we would have been warned, if we'd not been warned, if we'd have gone to general quarters, if those guys would have done their job, and all they had to do was push a button, we'd have gone to general quarters. And then the ships would have been buttoned up. Remember, we didn't have air conditioning. When we come in the harbor, man, we opened everything up, all the hatches, everything, you know, pretty warm. And the Tennessee was mad at us because we were on the lee side of the wind side of them, so we were getting their breeze and they weren't. So we were kind of giving them to them a little bit like that. But so then your training takes over. You're scared, but your training takes over. So we went down and we started kind of flooding the ship. But as I was telling you before, the ship was like 28 degrees, and she's up against the Tennessee. If it wasn't with the Tennessee, we'd have went over. She was holding it, the hull, and the cables were just stretching and then finally snapping. So when we counter flooded, the ship started to come down. We were holding hands, and a voice said, there's a nice compartment, if it's not flooded, there's a tube in there that goes right up to the boat deck, about that wide. So we could hear him. They don't have doorknobs in the Navy. They have bars, something like that.
Okay.
And you can hear him go, "Kay," with the scratch, things like that. The only thing I thought about, geez, what's my mother going to do? Because I figured, hey, this is it. So, but the adrenaline comes in, you're fighting. So the Navy taught us, take 3 deep breaths, fill your lungs up with air, and then if you can hold your breath as long as you can, then you release it. Then you have about 10 seconds left because you got to open up your mouth and you die. It's that simple. So anyway, as we went through, they said hold hands, because if you're not holding hands, you'll drift away. You'll never find the compartment. And he knew where it was. So anyway, he opened the door and the water went up to about here. So we were bobbing, you know, but the air was starting to get a little stale. So then the guy in front of me, or the guy behind me, he squeezed my hand so bad. I still sometimes I have pain in his fingers. He almost smashed my fingers. He squeezed them, so he didn't know that. So anyway, I got down and I took my breaths. I went down, got into that tube, black, and you go in with your arms up, and you're fighting your way up. You're grabbing the other guy's foot, and they're helping you, and we're up to that tube, and I need to get rid of the air. So I let the air out, and I'm still fighting. Pretty soon I start getting that feeling. I open up my mouth, and guess what? Water, oil, and air. And then he pulled me out of there, and I dropped on the deck, dead, dead. And everybody was just dead, you know. And then your mind comes back. The body does strange things when it's in stress. And so then I was sitting there, and somebody said, "Is this guy alive?" So I waved my fingers. So they picked me up and they took me up another deck, and I could see a little bit of sunlight. I said, "Wow," you know. So anyway, I got up, and guess what? There was an explosion. I got hit in the face, knocked me on my butt again. And I says, "Holy crap!" Now I'm semi-unconscious, and it's quite dark, you know, and there's water all over the place. And I said, "Holy cow!" So I'm just laying there, you know, and I'm trying to get as much air. I'm getting air and oil. So finally, somebody says, "This guy's okay. This guy's dead." Another guy said, "No, he's bleeding." If you don't bleed, you're dead. So they reached down and picked me up, and they took me up on the main deck in the sunlight. Oh man, I'll tell you, down I went again. Then we got topside, and one thing happened. My son calls it the shoe story. Well, all the guys that jumped off the ship, they took their shoes off and they put them in a row. Neat. That's discipline. Well, when I got up, the boats, we couldn't get in because of the fire. We had to swim a little bit, I don't know, maybe 5 feet, 10 feet, and the oil was burning, but it doesn't burn deep. And so I took my shoes off and I set them down. And I dove in the water and I came back up and it blows all over the place. I'm thinking about sharks. And the guys grabbed me and they pulled me up, and the guy took his t-shirt off and stuck it in my face to hold the blood back. And they took us across the channel. The Japanese were leaving now. And then a quietness came, but it was so noisy. You know, when you go to the fireworks and they have the finale, how about if you had that for an hour? You got an idea? So anyway, they took me to the hospital, and they put a stitch in it. And they said, "You want to stay here?" And I says, "No, sir." The whole street was full of bodies, live, mostly burns, bad burns. So I got in a truck and went back, and I said, "I got to get back to my ship." He says, "Well, the ship is sunk. That's my home." So I went back to the receiving station, and they had painting on the walls. It's a building, had walls painted, West Virginia, California, Arizona, all that stuff. And they says, so I stood under it, and the officer come over and says, we need help. He said, we could lose our ship, you know. So I said, you know, young, stupid. He says, but you're wounded. I says, I'm a telephone operator. I said, maybe I can help. He said, okay, you okay? I said, yeah, fine. He gave me an apple. I don't know where he got it, but he gave me an apple. So an apple. And then I threw up like you wouldn't believe with that oil. So anyway, I went back on the ship and we fought the fires for 2 days.